Neil Collins must be wondering what he did in a past life to have earned the luck he's had so far as Rovers manager. Another excellent first half gave way to a familiar collapse in Livingston yesterday, with Danny Wilson and Michael Nottingham headers countering Jack Hamilton's opener, with the Rovers severely hamstrung by a contentious Liam Dick red card. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. I am Duncan Cameron, and joining me tonight to pick all that apart and also look forward, in quotation marks, I think, to Tuesday's visit of Airdrie. I've got Leslie Maybon. First of all, how are you, Les?
Right, next question. 22 goals we have conceded in this calendar year from set pieces and crossballs, and it's not even the end of October yet. That's how I am.
Yeah, that could be a shared emotion, I suspect. But let's find out. Ian Latto's next up. How are you, Ian?
Yeah, mate, I'm all right. Another Sunday spent dwelling on the failures of a Saturday, but let's get into it.
Good stuff. And finally, we've got Alan Douglas Munn as well. Alan, I understand you were you were the technical gremlin yesterday. There was some some chicanery going on.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Rafe TV put up a thing just saying that there were technical difficulties, and I'd initially assumed it was, in the group chat. Carol had mentioned there was problems with the sound. I thought, maybe it was something to do with that. But then watching the highlights, it was clearly the Rafe TV sound that we were getting. And then a guy called Jim Robb had put on a comment saying that he'd heard that some guy, all you could see was the bald head of some guy sitting in row J. That might have been me. In my defence, they could have asked me to move if it was a problem. I was 2 rows in front as well. It wasn't like I was standing right in front of them,
I really thought that when they got rid of all the COVID Pixelot cameras, that the lot of us baldies had kind of moved on. I thought we'd dodged that. There was some
the camera just wouldn't have moved. It would have just been there the whole time.
Yeah, some SFA linesmen who took that bullet for us. I thought we'd got clear of that. Right, let's get into this. So, start where we always start with the lineup. 2:00 on a Saturday, we get our surprises. And I think a legitimate surprise in this one. I don't think anyone necessarily saw this coming. Leslie, Liam Dick was in from the start in place of Lewis Stevenson. Do you think that was a decision motivated entirely by height or other factors at play there?
I suspect it's largely motivated by height. One thing I will say is fair play to Neil Collins for doing that, because that would seem like a kind of unpopular and potentially risky move to make. We all know how good Lewis Stevenson is. We all know how high regard in which he's held by absolutely everybody in Scottish football. That's the kind of thing that ends up being a rod to beat you with if something goes wrong. But I think, absolutely, we know that we're at a height disadvantage compared to Livingston. And one of the very clear and obvious ways to mitigate that is by putting a left back in who is maybe a bit taller, a bit more physical, and that, it seemed perfectly sensible. I mean, having Dabo as well, we know how strong Dabo is on the right. Fantaghi maybe doesn't quite have the same height, but we know he's very good getting forward, so that maybe negates to an extent the need to have a left back who is that bit more confident in getting forward. So, knowing what we know about Livingston and how they play, and I don't mean that as a criticism, but just knowing about the physicalities of their team, particularly having Robbie Muirhead out in the wide positions, it seemed like an entirely sensible decision once he just took that minute to realise what was actually going on there.
Yeah, and Ian, given the evidence of the first half in particular, do you think that, there's a very large elephant in the room in the second half, but do you think that decision was justified by what we saw?
Yeah, I thought Liam played well. He got to the byline a couple of times, put in a couple of good crosses. You know what you're going to get with Liam Dick. He's an astute defender, and he's also very good in the air. And I don't know if Livy had probably planned for that, because when they took centre, literally the first thing they did was to chuck it at Muirhead straight away. So you can only kind of surmise from that they had a game plan up until they saw the team line of they were going to get the ball to Muirhead and that was going to be their kind of, their first choice of aerial attack. But yeah, Liam Dick played well. Listen, I think there's probably a bit of, we've got 3 games in 6 days. Lewis Stevenson's, how old's Lewis Stevenson? Is he 34, 35 years old? He's kicking on. He's probably not going to play 3 games in 6 days, so there's probably been a bit of squad rotation as well. But yeah, I thought Dicko did well. He should have played 90 minutes, but I'm sure we'll get into it.
Yeah, we definitely will. Moving into the first half, to be honest, I think not only in a defensive sense, I think actually all the good stuff from the Rovers in the first half seemed to kind of come down that left-hand side as well. In large part, I think, aided by David Martindale's selections as much as anything. I thought Michael Nottingham, and with a big asterisk that I recognise that he scored the winner, I thought he was dreadful for the first 94 minutes of that game. And I think this is not something that's like a controversial opinion. The Livingston fans have been calling us out for weeks. That like he's a big lump centre half who's been shunted out to right back for absolutely indiscernible reasons. And I think you could see that, especially in that first half. Just didn't know where he was supposed to be, didn't know what he was supposed to be doing, didn't want to have to deal with Finlay Pollock at all. Even the highlights of the Rovers' chances in that first half, there's at least 2 of them come from Michael Nottingham just panicking and misplacing. One of them inside his own box. He just miscontrols the ball and basically gives it back to Finlay Pollock. Alan, were you surprised even by just how well the Rovers did start that game yesterday?
Yeah, I thought from kickoff, we went right at them. I think we recognised pretty quickly that Michael Nottingham is not a good footballer. If he's 6 inches shorter, is he anywhere near that pitch? I don't know. You can definitely see why he's been moved out of the centre of defence, because quite frankly, at championship level, Danny Wilson and Ryan McGowan's a bloody good central defensive pairing. So you can see why he's not getting played in there. Did they keep him on just for the height? I don't know. But, Finlay Pollock was running at him the whole, just terrorising him, linking up really well with Sam Stanton, who I'm sure we'll talk a lot about today because he had a fantastic game. They were just terrorising him. Liam Dick was getting forward and they were kind of linking up. It was sometimes slowing down a wee bit. And I think Pollock maybe sometimes just thought, right, I'm just going to do it all myself and just run and try and take the man on. And in fairness to him, a few times he did it. He got to the byline, cut it back, and it created chances. But yeah, just within that first 10, 15 minutes, you thought, this could be a decent day for us.
If you had brought a stranger to that game and told them after 20 minutes that one of these teams hasn't scored a goal away from home all season and the other one's unbeaten, that there's not a chance you would pick which one was which in that.
How many times have we said that this year?
Yeah, every game.
Or something along those lines.
It really... There's obviously an element of there's only so far you can go given it the hard luck story and all that stuff. And I think Neil Collins touched on that in his post-match as well. But at the same time, it really... The 2 games that we've had against Livingston, the fact that we've got no points from those 2 games is ludicrous. Even setting aside, I think there's contentious refereeing decisions in both. We'll talk about a lot of them today. But even setting that aside, even just on pattern of the game, there should almost be enough to override a lot of that kind of stuff in it, just on the basis of how the games have gone. Just the luck and the way things have been falling for us recently has been ludicrous. And I think the old mantra is that these things even themselves out over a season. I think even the new style, the kind of stats nerd guys, they have their own version of that. Whether it's like, oh, you're underperforming this, it's fine, you'll overperform it at some point. Kind of starting to cling on to that because it's been a while, and I don't know, maybe we're just cursed. The first big chance of the game, Les, this is your special subject. We'll come to you because it's a remarkable about turn. It's the Rovers winning the first header in the box from a set piece. A brilliant chance for Callum Fordyce. I don't know if even he realises just how good a chance that is. To what extent are you putting that down as a missed opportunity versus that just being really, really good goalkeeping?
So for a very long time, I've been really critical of how effective or not we are at corners and set pieces. And I think I was moaning a bit about that until I'd actually watched the Queen's Park highlights back and actually thought, okay, we're definitely getting better at it. For a long time, we've been very good at winning corners and winning free kicks and things, but actually then doing nothing with them. This was different. I mean, because what happened was it was coming in, and it looked like Stanton was about 6 feet offside. And he was more than 6 feet. He was about the length of one Michael Nottingham offside. So he looked like he was a fair distance offside. And the ball just comes in, and then Fordyce's head meets with it beautifully. I thought he'd headed past the post at first. I didn't realise it was a save. I actually thought he'd just headed past the post, and I was like, oh, that's a shame it's gone wide. I didn't actually realise, because from where I was sitting in the stand, my line of sight was such that Fordyce was between me and the keeper and the goal. I didn't realise it was actually a good save. I mean, I think you could argue Fordyce could have got a bit more power on it. With a bit more power on it, the keeper might not have got it. But again, it was a good save as well. So I would say probably a bit of both. 50% could have had a bit more power, 50% fair play to the goalkeeper, because that was a good save from close range. And just to say as well, hopefully this is what Fordyce is going to bring us. We kept hearing that last season at Airdrie, that Fordyce was the brains behind the set pieces. Let's hope that's the case with us too.
Well, fingers crossed, because we could certainly do with a sustained improvement in that area. But not too long after that, we do get the goal. And then when it comes, there's a kind of flurry of chances really throughout the whole of this first half. And the goal is kind of in the same pattern. It's that play down the left-hand side, kind of coming inside, and then this time it's Scott Brown kind of clips a little first-time pass into Sam Stanton. It's not necessarily, I think, the silkiest of skills. It's a little bit untidy, but the touch and the turn is excellent. The defender's got no chance. And then it's a lovely little kind of cross in for Jack Hamilton to just kind of stick it past the keeper. Slam home, I think, from a couple of yards. Iain, give me your thoughts on the goal, please. And also Sam Stanton more generally yesterday, please.
Yeah, I think Sam's what has been the missing piece in the kind of final third for us. We spoke about it, me and my brother and two of the boys I was with. His decision making in the final third is quite far ahead of anybody else that we've got that kind of plays in that attacking midfield position. Easton kind of comes close, but I think Stanton's just better at it. So how many times would you have seen us get into that position and the player who's got the ball there just slam it into the near post or have a shot and the goalie kind of saves it or pans it around the post? But Sam's got like the vision to know that Hamilton's making that run across the front post, and Jack makes that run perfectly, and he does slam it into the net. We've missed Stanton. We've missed him a lot. And getting him back in the team, I think we could see yesterday straight away, like, he obviously didn't last the full 90, he tired, and I think it probably was the right decision to take him off because he was getting knackered and you didn't want to put too much football on his shoulders too early when he's just coming back. But I'm hoping he can be a wee bit of a catalyst to kind of get our season going now. I'm sick of saying that week on week, but now it really does need to get going.
I don't know if it's almost like an element of drive that he has that you don't necessarily have from the other players that we'd use in that role. Like, I don't quite know how to categorise it. It's not physicality. He's not someone you would necessarily say is like big and strong or anything like that, but he just seems quite, I don't know, forceful in the way that he plays the game.
I think some of our other players like have elements of that in their game, but they don't have all of them. Do you know what I mean? So like Scott Brown's got the energy, Dylan Easton's got the flair, but Stanton kind of has it all, and he marries it up, and like he's like the metronome and that that position. So I just think he's so important. He needs to play. We need to get him fit. He needs to play 90 minutes.
I think you just kind of touching on what you said about, you know, spotting the pass to Hamilton. He's got a vision that, you know, not even just in terms of what he does with the ball, what he does off the ball. He makes the little runs. He kind of sees where it's going to go. He reads what's going to happen and gets himself into these positions. And he's, you know, we've got good midfield and we've got a decent striker who maybe doesn't score enough goals, but you need someone to link the two up, and that's what Sam Stanton is. I'm not going to call him the missing link because that comes with all sorts of connotations, but essentially when he's not there, he is the miss, because he links the midfield to the forwards. You know what I mean? He just adds something that we don't have when he's not there.
Yeah, that I think is the crux of it. It's that when Stanton's available, you put him in that number 10 role, and it's like, right, Sam, just do what you do. Do your natural game. That's exactly what we need. When he's not there, you're basically going, right, Dylan, can you do what Sam does? Like, it's you've got sort of the authentic version, and then you've got other guys who are having to try to be that effectively. And it's something
it's almost like going back to when Claude Makelele kind of broke on the scene. You'd never seen a player like that before. And I'm not putting Sam Stanton on his level, let's not get carried away. But like, for years and years afterwards, people described midfielders who played like that as playing the Claude Makelele role. It was almost like he created this new role in football. And Sam Stanton's kind of like that for us. He doesn't fit into any kind of traditional box, if you like. He's just got something that adds a lot to our team.
We don't have a second Sam Stanton, effectively.
No.
And I think this is something that we might well come back to. If not today, we'll come back to it at some point. We had big arguments about the back three a couple of weeks ago. I think it's a much more realistic option now that Sam Stanton's back because of what he gives you. And it's not to go to the kind of Moneyball trying to recreate him in the aggregate thing, but sometimes it feels like we need two guys in the midfield when he's not there. Like, you do half of his job and you do half of his job, and between you that's covered. And then, now obviously these players all bring something else. I'm not saying he's twice the player of any of our other midfielders, but the specific job that he does, I think you can build the front half of a back three system around him in a way that you can't for anyone else that we've got. So I wonder if that might not come back in, particularly given some of Neil Collins' comments about in his post-match when he was asked about, again, conceding from set pieces. And he was very definite, and he's like, oh, we will be doing something about that, in the sense that you knew he had something in his mind, which could have just been giving folk a kicking, to be honest. It's like, I take Sunday off because on Monday I'm just going to start throwing hammers. So as the Rovers, they got that goal, but didn't really let up. I thought through the rest of the first half, really, the pattern kind of continued. Livy's chances of their own making, watch this space, really amounted to kind of one fairly tame shot from distance, I think, the first half. But they did almost get an equaliser for all that. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, you're like, playing really well here. This is really good. Just got to keep you on your toes. Bouncing ball into the back line. Dabo's caught under it, and he decides to calmly header it back to his goalkeeper, who has decided to calmly come out and collect it. And there's a very, very panicky couple of seconds. And I don't know who it is, but someone who's obviously been next to the mic for the Wraith TV camera. There's a female voice just kind of pierces through on the highlights, just going, no, which could have been every single one of us.
Just a shout out there, actually.
The highlights, I think the Livingston support, obviously the home support.
Nope.
I was just going to say that the Livy support, I don't think get anywhere near as excited about it as we get worried about it because of the angle that they've got. I think they could see that it was always running wide. Did not look like that to me.
The lady who was shouting.
Sorry, Alan, I cut you off
right
there.
Behind me.
What did you make of that incident?
Yeah, it was just mental, wasn't it? You just didn't know, like you couldn't tell if it was going in or not. It was just ridiculous. The lady who shouted, she was actually sat right behind me, and she will watch this because she did. She was the first person to say to me ever, "Oh, you're on the podcast, aren't you?" Yeah, I've been recognised. So she will be watching this, but yeah, it was. I think she summed up exactly what we were all feeling. It was just like, no. Even on the highlights, watching it back, I still don't know how it didn't go in.
I mean, if you watch the highlights, the frightening thing is, I mean, maybe the Livy fans got a better angle, but even from the highlights, Darbo's header, it beats Kevin's left hand. You know, it's almost like it's curving past into the net. You think, again, it was almost like the one that Lee Kildare scored for Hamilton for us earlier in the season in the Challenge Cup and in the League Cup. You know, a beautiful header beats the goalkeeper perfectly, and we were probably, in the end, a few inches away from being viral on YouTube. Oh my goodness, not good for the heart.
Yeah, I was texting my mate, just like updates through the game, and text was like, well, very nearly one each. And he's like, well, what happened? It's like, well, just imagine any miscommunication between a goalkeeper and a defender from like Nick Hancock's Football Funnies for VHS, because it's like the archetypal miscommunication. I don't know if there's worth in doing it anyway. I don't like in terms of doling out blame for that. Ian, do you think is that just miscommunication on both sides?
I think if Kev's coming, it's up to him to be screaming and saying he's coming for it. And I think you can see that in the video of the highlights. Dabo's saying like you need to talk. Do you know what I mean? He's saying to him like, I've got no idea you're coming off your line. He's worrying about the defender that's on his shoulder. Do you know what I mean? And he's focusing on headering the ball. If the goalie's not telling him he's going to come for it, he's got to assume that he's going to be on his line. Just a similar thing actually happened. I know we'll get onto it, but at the Livingston goal, you can see Stevens. Like I always think it's quite telling how players react towards their goalie when there's a goal conceded or that. And it was happening at the start of last season when Kev first came in. A lot of the time you could see the players remonstrating with him and kind of giving him a bit when we conceded a goal. And it went away, obviously, because Kev was doing well. But see, now it's back at almost every goal. The players are throwing their hands up in the air and, you know, like they're just not quite happy with him. So, yeah, there's probably a bit of conversation to have on Kev at some point as well.
Yeah, I think we'll kind of duty bound to cross that at some point. But before that, we've got loads of fun stuff to talk about tonight. We'll kind of fast forward through half time into the start of the second half. 5 minutes into the second half, desperate Wraith Rovers clinging on, wasting every second that they can, quite rightly brought to heel by one of the SFA's fine, upstanding officers of the law. Leslie, give me your thoughts. I mean, at the time, were you that bothered by this? Were you shouting and bawling, or are we making a bit more of this in hindsight?
I mean, it's been a feature of Dicko's game since he joined us. He always takes really long to release the ball at throw-ins, and to be fair, that's not entirely his fault. You know, if nobody's in space, nobody's moving for it, he's going to be looking for it. You know, he's done that for a while, and you can only assume that the referee has had a word with him, whether it was, and we didn't see it, whether it was in the tunnel or whether it was something that happened and he said, look, don't do that again or I'll book you. But, you know, and Liam Dick is just taking his usual Liam Dick-esque amount of time to release the ball, and the ref decides to get his card out and just book him. I mean, as I say, the ref may have had a word with him and we just didn't see it, but ordinarily it would be sufficient to have a word with him, give him a proper bollocking in front of everybody and get on with it. we'll come on to this later in more detail, I'm sure. I'm a bit worried, though, that I think a lot of poor referees have got the impression that we're a dirty team and they're out to get us from the moment the game starts. We'll come on to this, as I say, and I don't want to spoil that bit of the discussion. But, I think poor referees are primed to think that we're a dirty team and that we're going to do stuff like that, and they're acting accordingly based on a perception of who we are rather than who we're actually doing. Part of that is then on us to respond accordingly. Part of that is also, though, that it's just appalling. It's just week after week, and I know it affects everybody in the division, but we seem to be on the end of it an awful lot. And as I say, I do think our cards are marked.
Yeah, we certainly have been recently. I mean, it's not the worst piece of refereeing you'll ever see. I don't think it's an outrageous thing to do. I think the issue for me is around consistency. And I know that's such a cliched thing to say when you talk about referees, but it really is. And the thing that stood out to me with this yesterday, I mean, first of all, I don't actually think the charge is correct, if that makes sense, because he's not wasting time. He's not taking his throw in quickly enough, and I think that's fair enough. But he's not wasting time. Liam Dick's not standing there thinking, "Oh, if I just hold on to this for another 10 seconds, we're 10 seconds closer to getting the 3 points." He's standing there thinking, why have I not got any options? And as I say, that's not really for the referee to consider, but partly. But the reason I mention it is later in the game, we're making substitutions. It's still 1-0. We're now 20 minutes further into the game and we're down to 10 men. Taking forever. Lewis Jameson takes an incredible amount of time to go off the park. And the referee does what they tend to do now with time wasting, which is he stands there looking like it, pointing at his watch. Which, fine. If that's the punishment for time wasting, I actually kind of agree. The punishment fits the crime. If you want to take 4 minutes to go off the park, I'll just add on 4 minutes. Cool. Nobody's died. Let's get on with our lives. So the booking for Liam Dick just feels very incongruous. It didn't deserve a yellow card. As you say, Les, you could have just had a go at him. Like, fine. As I say, it's not the worst bit of refereeing you'll ever see. If Liam Dick doesn't then get a second yellow, which we will be talking about, that never gets mentioned. That doesn't come up again. If that booking at that time goes to Sean Byrne, literally we would never have mentioned it. No one knew there was anyone else. However, that booking is very quickly followed by a second booking, and I think we can devote a little bit more time to discussing this one. Alan, give me your thoughts on Liam Dick's second yellow card, please.
I was still standing up, clapping, going, "Yes, great tackle!" What the? This is exactly how I was feeling. And fun enough, where I was sitting blocking the camera, I then looked down to the left, and Iain was just standing with his arms out, just going, what? Just with this look of complete bemusement on his face, just like, what the hell's just happened? I mean, it was a great tackle. Like, as we all put in the group chat, we've now actually had the benefit of looking at the highlights again. It was a great tackle. He gets the ball cleanly. It's not even a straight leg tackle. He actually slides in and then kicks the ball. So it's not even like he's hit him with a straight leg. He kicks the ball and then the guy follows through with him. Now, if a ref's going to turn around and watch that and say, "Oh no, that's the right decision," is Liam Dick not allowed to try and win the ball because the other guy's a bit closer? Like, what's he supposed to do? Just let him have it? Like, it was a perfectly good tackle. And it wasn't dangerous. It wasn't a straight leg. He didn't get him with studs or any of that. It was nonsense. Basically.
Yeah, I agree with you. Before I expand on that, Iain, you had your arms outstretched at the time. Having now seen it back, have you changed your mind? Your thoughts strengthened at all?
Yeah, same thought. I knew straight away it was an absolutely nonsense decision. Like, you get a kind of, see when a player's on a booking and then there's a tackle, you either go like, if there's a, what am I trying to say? You inherently know straight away if he's in bother.
Yeah.
and you go, oh, shite, like, he could be off here. Not even for a second did that cross my mind. I was like, he's got the full ball, and the ball's pung away up the park. Like, what has the referee seen? What has he thought has happened for the ball to react in that manner after a coming together? I'd actually go further. Like, I don't even think it's almost not a tackle. It's like a sliding interception, because he gets there first and Nottingham kind of falls over the top of him.
Yeah.
It's just an incredible, incredible decision. The referee's in a good position. He's right on the spot. He's got a clear view of it. There's nobody kind of in his way. It's just a appalling piece of refereeing. And it's,
right in front of the
again,
linesman as well.
had an impact on our result. And it's happening weekly. And I'm frankly sick of it. I'm absolutely done with it.
I think you're spot on. I think that the way that you've framed that there is exactly the point, right? That it's an interception. It's not a tackle. So it's a really bad pass. It's not a really bad pass. It's a bad pass. The boy basically plays it between two of his own players. So it's in front of whoever it is, I don't care. One of the Livingston midfielders. And it's too short for Nottingham. So, like, I mean, to your point about you're watching someone and you know he's on a booking, you also see it players' body language when they're on a booking. Liam Dick would never, on a yellow card, make a tackle like that, like sort of against a player who's in possession of the ball. But the ball's loose, and he goes after it, he slides in, his studs are down, there's none of that kind of dangerous stuff. He plays the ball away, and then there is a collision because Michael Nottingham's not quick enough to get to the ball first. Now, as I say, see if Michael Nottingham's in possession of the ball, and you slide in like that, or slightly worse than that, I think that's where you get a case where it's like, yeah, look, you might have played the ball, but he had the ball. There's a reasonable expectation that if you go in like that, the guy's got the ball. Even if you play it, you're going to crash into him. That's reckless, a yellow card. Nobody's got the ball. If anybody's got the ball, Liam Dick has got the ball. He is in possession of the football. And the boy crashed into him, really. Yeah, as you say, when you know somebody's on a yellow card, it actually happened later in the game. Scott Brown had been booked, and there was a really minor foul, really innocuous foul. But I had that feeling where I was like, by that point we knew the referee was, who he was. So, but I had that thought where I was like, oh, but I was exactly the same. Didn't occur to me at all. I was like, brilliant, well done. Stepped out defence, taking a risk. Anything you step out defence, you've handled that perfectly, well cleared. Oh, we've got a man down, we might get a free kick here. And I couldn't believe that.
But I mean, just to go back to what I was saying before, this is what I mean when I say that our cards are marked. This is a poor referee that knows we've had 3 red cards all this season. He's seen a guy go sliding in, and he's not even taking a second to think about what he's seen, what's actually happened, consult with the linesman. He's got the card out immediately. Nottingham, quite frankly, has fallen over under his own size and weight. He's fallen over under his own size and weight. He's gone rolling and flying. The referee's seen Liam Dick sending a big boy flying, and he's come straight in Colin Stevens style with the red card out. And you see what it actually reminds me of? If we go back a couple of seasons to 2020, 2021, we had Ian Davidson. Now, Davo did a lot of really bad things, and I'm not going to defend or justify them, but there was a period where opponents, if he was near them, would just chuck themselves at the ground, screaming and slapping the Astro. There was a wee Hearts boy that did it one week, and they would inevitably get him sent off because they knew that referees were looking out for him. And it's the same thing, and it's actually become even worse, I think, since the kind of topper grade referees have been off doing VAR duties, and some of the guys were getting instead. It was absolutely not a second yellow. It was certainly not a red card. It's a referee coming flying in because he's been primed to think that Wraith Rovers are a dirty team because they've had 3 red cards already now, 4 in 10 games, rather than actually having any kind of reflection on what he's seen.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like again, Neil Collins in his interview says like 4 red cards would have this season. Sean Burns, I think 60-40, probably a red card. The question is, has he been fouled in the beginning of that move? If you accept that he wasn't, it's definitely a red card. Ewan Murray's it's a mistake, more than anything else. Dylan Easton, it's stupidity is probably the easiest word for it. But again, talked about it last week. A more experienced referee, are you bothering to get into red cards for that? And I don't think I made myself very clear when I was talking about that. I don't think that mitigates or forgives Dylan Easton at all. I think if you're saying anything that's riling a referee up enough to send you off, you have to just eat that. That's, your fault. But I still think at the same time it's bad refereeing. And I think that's exactly the same. I think both of those yellow cards is bad refereeing. And I'm almost quite pleased that later on he sends off the Livingston player as well, because that's also a terrible decision. Yeah. So at least we get to balance that up a little bit. Listen, we might as well just talk about that just now, because we're going to complain about conceding goals in a minute. So let's stick to complaining about the referee. Did anybody expect a red card to be coming out there?
So I actually did kind of think he was going to send them off, purely because he will have kind of had it in his head, like, have I made the right decision there? So had that happened and Liam Dick hadn't been sent off, there's no way he sends Wilson off there. He's only given that red card. It's like, you said it in the group chat, it's bad refereeing compounding bad refereeing. It's totally true. Like, there is no way he sends Danny Wilson off without us already being down to 10 men. David is... Are we going with David? Is that what we're going with? Sorry, I know there's been some confusion. We're going to go with David.
Go with David, yeah.
Let's stick with David. David is in his own half, like, when the tackle's made. He's got 50 yards to run, and there's someone right beside him. It's never a red card. It's just... It's not. I imagine they'll appeal it, and I imagine they'll win.
I would think so. It's the kind of one that every single supporter will scream for, but with no expectation that you're getting it.
Nah.
Because it's... I don't know. I mean, hopefully Cody David does have the ability that he could then, from that position, go the 50 yards, outstrip the defenders, and put it past the goalkeeper. But I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced there was many players in the division that you could call being in that position a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity. I think even if you accept that if Danny Wilson hadn't fouled him, he would have taken out Michael Nottingham, there's still a guy who's already at full speed coming into the back, whoever the right back is. Just, really bad refereeing. And the big difference is it's 40 odd minutes after our red card. But that is slightly.
He does just stick his leg out. There's no attempt to actually make a tackle. He just thinks, I'm going to kick this guy and take him out. Probably thinking, two of my mates are right next to me, so there's no way he's going to send me off for this. And he does just... But I don't know if it's maybe the act of just making no attempt to get the ball and just clearly saying, I'm taking this guy out, that's maybe done it. There's going to be an element of evening up the score as well. But similarly to Ian, I did expect it, but at the same time thinking, there's no way that's a red card, but he's going to send him off because this guy's a clown. Going bold.
I think you can see it in Danny Wilson's reaction on the highlights, because you get that sometimes where a player will absolutely assault someone, studs up around the knee, and then they just jog back into position, and they're like, a red card, I can't believe it. Danny Wilson's completely genuine, because he does that. He was just running away where he's like, cool, I know it's a yellow card, don't worry about it, it's fine. And obviously the referee's shouting at him, and you see as he turns around, and he's like, oh, no. Because I think you're right, Alan. I think he makes that foul in complete confidence where he's going, I'll take the yellow card. This is a tricky situation that could become a goal-scoring opportunity, but it's not yet, so I'll just foul him now and we'll take it. And I actually think Michael Nottingham's basically doing the same thing. And between the two of them, they managed to stop him. But neither one of them is ever at any point thinks, I might get sent off if I do this. Let's see, we kind of skipped ahead to that just to kind of try and box off some terrible refereeing. But before that red card, Livingston did have an equaliser through Danny Wilson, heading in a cross from Stephen Kelly. I think the general consensus on this, and I have to tell you it was my immediate reaction and probably still my opinion, haven't seen it back, is that this has to go down as a goalkeeping error, at least in part. Leslie, do you think, is it indecision from Kevin Dabrowski? Is that the biggest sin here, or is there more at play?
I think it is indecision, and as you've been saying, Duncan, on social media, and Alan as well, and indeed the wonderful sage at his Wraith stats, it's not entirely Kev's fault. There are others who are at fault for this goal and the second as well, but it's the fact he comes out halfway, and like you're saying, a goalkeeper who's not confident would stay on his line and would let the defenders try and deal with it, and might try and, if it comes to it, try and get a reflex save or something. A goalkeeper who's very confident will come and clean everybody out, including his own defender, the other defender, and will do whatever he has to do to get something on the ball. The problem is Kev doesn't do either of them. He comes sort of halfway and then leaves it, which then leads to the ball going sailing past him and into the empty net. And we've seen it at a few points in a number of different situations this season with Kev. And sometimes it has led to goals. Earlier in the game, it nearly led to an own goal. If you're also following that line of thought, it also arguably contributed to a red card at East End Park with him and Murray coming halfway out. Again, a very confident keeper shouts keeper and comes and just gets something on it. Whether it's him overthinking, like you've said before, Duncan, kind of faking it till you make it, whether it's Kev thinking, right, I need to improve this aspect of my game, but he's still having to think about it rather than just automatically doing it. I don't know, but it's led to a number of situations in recent weeks where it's put us in trouble.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot in the Morton game, about the things that he's doing that the kind of the armchair football fans who are also armchair psychologists. This is so far out of our wheelhouse, but it does. That's what it looks like to me. Is that he's like doing what he thinks a confident goalkeeper would do, and I think it worked last season, where he'll come out and he'll kick a ball with his weaker foot, and a lot of goalkeepers just wouldn't. But it's like he does it, and if a couple of times it goes well, and then actually, well, if you're pretending you're confident and you do it and it works, why is that any different from just being confident? Like at a certain point, that just clicks, and you're like, oh, cool, that's actually just something I can do. And it just, the fragility of that is, I think, what we're seeing now. That when you're doing that and it works, it's great, it just compounds and it works really well. But the cracks are there, and I think that's the issue. And again, like we said with other games this season, you could put together a little reel of Kevin Dabrowski doing loads of really good stuff in that game, including a couple of times, especially in the first half, where he was coming out of his box. And one of them he headed, one he played it with his feet nice and early, dealt with it, totally fine. Some of the stuff that he's been criticised for before, he was doing really well. But it's these like fatal errors. And I think this is where the trade-off starts to come in. Because he's still making the saves, and he's probably still making saves that a lot of other goalkeepers wouldn't. But like, you don't need that top bracket of like incredible saves if the foundation isn't there, if you're making like relatively basic errors that are leading to, not just directly leading to goals, it's the leading to the doubt in the defence and all that kind of stuff. I mean, actually with this one, he starts to come and then he doesn't. I actually think he's misjudged it, and he recognises he's misjudged it. I don't think it's just indecision. I think it's basically he starts to come for it and then realises, I'm not going to get this. And so he has to step back. But with the benefit of hindsight, I think he just has to stay back the entire time. There is a reasonable argument that he probably still doesn't save it, or at least it would be a very, very good save for the point the defender makes the contact. But I think that's the best chance he's got, almost. But then again, as you say, if he just clatters through a couple of people, potentially it doesn't matter, and the guy doesn't.
It's in the 6-yard box. Do you know what I mean? Like the header comes from within the 6-yard box. The cross isn't like, it's not zipped in. Like, it's not as if it's going. Like, it's not like a bullet flat cross. It's like, it's got an arc on it. You know, it's got spin on the ball. Admittedly, the spin is kind of spinning away from him. I think the ball's in the air for long enough for him to come and claim it. Like, it's not that far out. I think he needs to come and get it.
Yeah. I suppose the other contributing factor to this, and again, I don't think it really gives Kevin Dabrowski any kind of credit back. The defence is mismatched following the first set piece.
Mm-hmm.
So for Dice, who would be that back post man typically, is basically out kind of covering a short pass for Stephen Kelly, and it's Lewis Stevenson. So again, without the intervention of the referee, if under Neil Collins' plan A, that's Liam Dick.
Yeah.
Even at that, maybe that's enough. That just the additional kind of strength in the air might be enough that you get away with that. But it is, unfortunately, it's another one that goes into this book of crosses into the box, specifically that one, cross in the 6-yard box. And just to, because I actually completely forgotten about this until I saw it in the highlights, very shortly after that, there's a disallowed goal, which is a cross into the 6-yard box from a set piece. And the header's flicked on. I think it might actually be Danny Wilson again, potentially, who gets the final touch. I mean, he's definitely offside. There's no question about that. He's offside. But with that one, the reason I want to mention it is there's no getting away from the defence being the issue with that one, because it is very much like the header that Morton scored. The boy Filip Stuparevic was just between Hanlon and Murray. So with this one, it's Hanlon and Fordyce. But it's a set piece. You should be set. You can freeze frame it on the highlights, and they're both on their toes. And let's see, can I tell who it is actually winning the header? No, I can't. It's a boy in a yellow jersey. He's in the air. He's like a foot in the air, heading it on, and they're both on their toes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is, with respect to the fact that these are both decent footballers and there's a lot of other assets, kind of like number one on the job list, win your headers in the penalty box. And like, we'll get to the other stuff later. And as he's miles offside, he headers it on, it's a nice little finish. But that, I don't know necessarily that we did much to earn that offside. Like, if you know what I mean. I don't think the defending, we get out of a hole with that one, I think. Alan, give me your thoughts on these, this weakness, this headers into the box, goalkeeper defence, the whole morass.
The headers thing, it's weird, because if you were to sit there and look at our team on paper and think, what's the one thing you should be good at? You've got Hanlon and Fordyce in there. You should have no problem getting headers clear. And even I know I'm not kind of jumping ahead, but the second goal, Fordyce is caught in the middle, marking nobody. Hanlon doesn't even get off the ground. Or it might just be that Nottingham's 7'5" and makes it look like Hanlon's not off the ground. But I had to kind of rewind it and watch it again. I was like, well, actually, has Nottingham got hands on Hanlon's shoulders there? Has he stopped him jumping? Is it a foul? You're clutching at straws, really. Hanlon just doesn't seem to jump for it. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's happened under different managers with different defenders. It's just, it's really hard to explain. It should be absolute basics for guys who have played. Hanlon's played at a good level. Fordyce been renowned as someone who is commanding in the air. It's really tough to see what's causing the issue. I mean, Collins clearly isn't happy with it. I think that was the main thing to take his post-match interview, that he recognises that that's a problem and he's got to do something about it. I have a funny feeling that the thing he's going to do about it's not going to please Mr. Fleming, but we'll come to that when we discuss potential lineups for the Airdrie game.
That I think is really difficult to take, actually, watching it back. Like, it feels like the kind of... I'm not a set piece coach. I can't even say set piece coach. But it seems like if you were one, that would be like drill number one. Like, this is what we're going to do when the opposition put this ball in. Like, into the penalty spot, there's a guy who's 6'6" standing on the penalty spot, and there are two front post runners. And we actually almost seem to deal with that bit well enough, because the two front post runners go, two defenders go, but behind them, you've got Hanlon, who's man marking the guy who's going to score the goal, and you've got Fordyce, who's marking the zone, effectively. So he doesn't have a man. So he's just there to attack the ball. And we don't even get close to preventing it. Like, Fordyce basically is just jumping in the space, which is, listen, it's not the easiest thing to judge a ball, blah, 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 all that stuff. But again, to go back to, this is really what you're there to do. Like, if you freeze that when the ball's in the air, you're like, we're well set to defend this. Like, we've got two boys on the park by that point, right? So Dick's been sent off, Hamilton's gone off, he's been subbed off. We don't really have very many other tall players left. But like, there's two boys on the park who can win headers for us. They're both where they should be. And it's the same result as if they weren't there. He scores it as if it's a free header. Sorry, Ian, come in on that.
So we've actually changed the way that we defend set pieces in the last couple of weeks. And we've gone to this kind of hybrid of some man marking and some zonal. Callum Fordyce is one of the ones who's been given a zonal role, primarily because he, in theory, is our best defensive header of the ball. So it's all the more galling that he's free to go and win the ball as our best defensive header of the ball, and in a corner in the 95th minute, he just fucking jumps under it. Like, go and win that ball. Like, I've watched him play for Airdrie for however many years, and I've watched him defend that cross hundreds of times. Like, he is a fundamentally excellent header of the ball. He just gets it wrong. Like, and it's so difficult to take because he's so much better than that. It's yeah, it's so frustrating.
I mean, the only way I can think to kind of rationalise it, and Alan makes a great point, that this has been going on for a very long time, and it even predates Kev coming. So it's been going on for successive managers, successive seasons, countless knows how many defenders, goalkeepers and coaches. The only way I can think of it is what we call the Swiss cheese model of risk management. So when shit happens, basically, it's when it's like, you imagine a slice of Swiss cheese, and if all the holes are in different places, sometimes you get a situation where all the holes line up and you get an accident happening. It's when a number of bad things happen. And that is what happened there. Like you say, Ian, the best header of the ball, one of the best headers of the ball in the league probably, is in the wrong place. He misses the header. Hanlon, who's normally very good, is either out-jumped or out-muscled by an absolute giant. And you've got a number of factors compounding that lead to that goal happening, which doesn't make it any less galling that it's the 22nd goal we've conceded from a corner or a set piece in the year. Oh my goodness.
Because there is an element of that. There's an element of, it's the 95th minute, you've played the last 45 of them with 10 men. As I said a minute ago, like, two of the boys that you specifically started because they win headers have gone off for different reasons. Like, these things will happen, but it's very I was more in that frame of mind before I watched the highlights. It's like, actually, we've almost done the hard part of that. Like it's gone the way we would want it to, and then still just not dealt with it, and that's got to be incredibly frustrating.
Probably worth mentioning that
I feel very sorry for Neil Collins.
Just worth mentioning that I personally wouldn't put any blame on Kev for the winning goal. I think the ball's high and hard enough that he's not coming for it. And just to kind of reiterate a point I made to someone outside the ground and kind of we've discussed in the group chat, I also don't blame him for putting the ball out for the corner that went. I thought it was a very good save. And the suggestion from someone outside the ground that he should have been catching that instead of going for the camera save was nonsense.
No, it's rifled at him, and he has to get across to tip it away. There's no. I would be very heavily laying the first goal at his door. I've got no issues with basically anything else he did in the game apart from that mix up with Dabo in the first half. The problem is, as is often the case with goalkeepers, that when you make mistakes, you concede goals. But it's been happening too often. Almost.
And if it was the first one, you wouldn't.
I think we probably should discuss just purely because it's being spoken about online and just to be quite representative of the wider fan base. How close to Andy McNeil getting a shot are we?
Well, I suppose from Neil Collins' point of view, we don't know. We just don't have any like. Is he the kind of manager who will effectively never drop his goalkeeper? He's welded to his number one. A lot of managers like that exist. Is he a John McGlynn, Tombola goalkeeper manager? Just decides to just at the drop of a hat, we'll just chuck in anybody else. But I mean, I'll give you my 2 cents and I'll let the other guys come in. I would be sticking with Kevin Dabrowski with quite a high, clearance before I got to Andy McNeil, largely based on the little I've seen of Andy McNeil. And that's, I suppose, not particularly complimentary to either of them, really, but it would be different if we had another goalkeeper who'd played a lot of championship games. Like, if you think about the situation we were in when Jamie McDonald came in and Robbie Thompson was there, and they were both, legitimate options as a first-team goalkeeper. If one of them was in this kind of form, I would much more readily be saying, we'll give the other one a shot. I'm just not, and it's lack of evidence as opposed to evidence to the contrary. Not seen a lot of Andy McNeil that makes me think it's going to improve things. And I think the thing that really doesn't improve things is when you swap and then realise you have to swap back again, and you've just got that kind of disruption. But I mean, at this point, I would not be at all surprised. If Neil Collins, obviously he's got access to footage and stuff from last season. But if you don't have last season's bank of evidence of Kevin Dabrowski at the forefront of your mind, based on just this season, I mean, I wouldn't be amazed if he was at least looking out in the January market to see, is there somebody for down south who's, able to come in. Les, give us your thoughts on that, please, and then Alan, you can come in.
I think I'm probably on the same page as you, Duncan. I think both of us actually came into the group chat after the game at the same time to say the same thing, which was that I think we're probably closer to seeing another goalkeeper being brought in from somewhere else than we are to Andy McNeil getting a game. Not least because, like we said, Andy McNeil, I mean, no disrespect to him, I'm sure he's got a good career ahead of him. He's still very young. I don't think it benefits anybody, least of all him, to put him into a team that's struggling for confidence and organisation. What I do think that we will see, and this is what I think Collins might have been alluding to when he said something about having ideas, is we might be looking at either a goalkeeper that's currently available or one that is about to imminently become available with the end of the American season, or one that will become available when the English window opens. I mean, like some 36-year-old who's played 300 League One games for Altrincham or something like that we've never heard of, coming up to, keep some clean sheets and keep the gaffer happy kind of thing. That, I suspect, is what is more likely to happen. Like I said when I was on a couple of weeks ago, we're a long way away from that happening, but I think we went a step closer to it with the game last weekend. I think the goalkeeper is maybe something that I think the manager would look at. And I think if you compare to last season, the only thing that hasn't been changed in that defence is the keeper. Yeah, like you say, if you're Neil Collins and you're not coming in with the Rovers tinted specs, the logical extension of that is you think, well, might that be the next area that we need to look at? So as I say, my suggestion is it will be an external candidate rather than Andy McNeil.
Alan, for you?
Yeah, I mean, probably on the same page. We've not seen enough of Andy McNeil to suggest that he's going to come in and massively improve things. You know, it's the Lee Bryce effect, isn't it? You know, the longer he goes without playing, the better he gets. And you know, you need to bear in mind this guy's played a handful of games for us. Never done anything wrong, really, and played half a season at Edinburgh City where wasn't spectacular. Don't get me wrong, you know, he had a fairly poor team in front of him there as well, but I've not seen enough of McNeil to suggest that he's going to come in and sort everything out. And you're then getting to a stage where the defence, they at least should know what Kev's weaknesses are and try and play around them. That's kind of coming back to the whole indecisiveness thing. You know, if they know he's going to stay back, it's fine, they can work with it. But then throwing in another keeper that they've not necessarily worked all that much with isn't going to help. I think we need to be trying to build some consistency in the lineup to just get these guys used to working together. I think we probably stick with them for now. But I do agree with both of what you've both said about. You do wonder if he is going to have his eye on. I have to admit, I hadn't thought of the American market until kind of Les mentioned it there, but it is something you do wonder if he might pop back to Tampa and maybe bring some of his old coaching staff with him as well. I don't know if that's, you know, most managers come in and they like to work with their own coaches, so you wonder if there's something like that he might be looking at as well. I don't know. I just to be clear, I'm not criticising Robbie Thompson's goalkeeping coaching abilities at all. You know, he is kind of highly thought of, but you know that there's something not clicking, and you know he's coming with a fresh pair of eyes that he'll see things that maybe people who've been around the club for a while haven't noticed. So there may well be changes afoot.
Yeah, it's tangential, but I did see. I think we all saw during the week that Bill Orr, who'd been heading up a lot of the kind of the analytical scouting side of things, left the club during the week. So there's obviously is still just on a fairly high level an evolution of people and roles and all this kind of stuff.
Has he been announced at Falkirk yet?
It's surely only a matter of time. Iain, you asked us the question, you never really get the chance to give us your own thoughts, so I'll ask you two things. Give us your thoughts on the goalkeeping situation, and then just take us into Airdrie on Tuesday, because I'm fed up talking about that defeat to Livingston, quite frankly.
Yeah, the only thing that you guys kind of never mentioned is that like there maybe is a wee element of, do we just need to take Kev out the firing line for a couple of weeks? Like, do we just take him out and give him a chance to reset, have a few weeks at the limelight, get his head back in the game, a couple of weeks of good training, with the thought of kind of medium term that he is going to come back in, but at the moment there are just kind of too many mistakes in his game, and we need to just take him out for his sake and for our sake. That might come into Neil Collins thinking. I wouldn't be surprised if McNeil's in goals on Tuesday, but by the same turn of the coin, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Kev just plays the next two games. So I guess the proof will be in the pudding when we get the team line on Tuesday night. Speaking of Tuesday night, it's early for a must-win, but it feels like a must-win purely because of like Airdrie's solitary win so far this season has been against us. And the league is kind of splitting into two halves already. If we've got any aspirations of moving into the top half, which I'd still like to think we do, you need to beat the teams that are round about you. And it does not bode well if the teams round about you, i.e. Airdrie, Dunfermline, Morton, you're repeatedly getting beaten from them. Airdrie look like they are the worst team in the league. It's at home. We desperately need to win. We need to get 3 points on the board, build a bit of confidence, and then it's a big game again on Friday against Ayr. Yeah, I'm not hopeful. I just think there's so many things kind of that feel like they're conspiring against us, and just the things that are happening on like a genuine weekly basis that seem to be going against us. Yeah, I'm not buzzing for Tuesday.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that. Les, how are you feeling about Tuesday?
I'm very concerned. I'm very, very concerned. I think a few things. Like it or not, we are at the bottom end of the table. No team is too good to go down. You know, Falkirk have been relegated, Dunfermline have been relegated, Partick, albeit in the COVID season, were relegated. It can happen. And based on what we've seen in recent weeks, I am not confident at how this team would perform in a relegation grinding type game, which is what we're going to get from Airdrie. So I think this is my concern, is that this is a litmus test for how we would cope in a relegation scrap. And you can be absolutely certain that Airdrie will be up for this. Rhys McKay will have them fired up for it. You know, there's guys like Hancock, guys like Frizzell. There's enough players there who still, you know, remember last season when they had the beating of us, and they will be well up for this. I do think that, and I mean, this is, I don't want to sound disrespectful to Airdrie when I say this, but I do think they're on the same trajectory that Arbroath were last season and Cove the season before, which is that they started okay and then very rapidly went downhill into a terminal decline. However, just as with Arbroath and Cove, that doesn't mean that they can't muck things up for us on the way down. So I'd still like to think or hope that over the course of a season we've got more than them in the tank, but in a head-to-head, I am not confident, and I hope that I am proven wrong when it comes to Tuesday evening. But I'm quite very, very concerned about this one.
The only thing with that is I think Mason Hancock might be injured, which would be nice.
Excellent.
I think he's missed the last couple of games. I was frantically checking there to see if I could see to what extent he had this injury. But my Googling and podcast hosting skills simultaneously not really up to scratch. So
just to be clear, as always, when I say excellent when somebody's injured, you know, a short-term injury that means he doesn't play us because he's always been very good against us is great. I don't want like a career-ending or season-ending injury.
Yeah, if he just loses his car keys, it's the same result. Right. That's fine. Yeah, I think there's a problem that Airdrie have got, is that they haven't replaced sort of the quality that they had last season that they've lost, and they've kind of been left with a small squad that doesn't have an awful lot of quality in it, but does definitely still have players who can hurt you. So I wonder, actually, I hadn't really given it any thought in the sense of Neil Collins dropping Kevin Dabrowski. I actually didn't think he would at all. But just as you were sort of explaining your logic there, Iain, I wondered if maybe that was what he was kind of hinting towards. Because it was a very definite, I have a plan. Like, he knew what he meant when he said, we're going to do something about that. Now, my initial thought, what I thought originally, as we kind of alluded to previously, was that he'd go to the back three. I think it's the less nuclear option to address the same issue. I think you basically you go to your back three, so you've got three centre-halves, and you then just tell your goalkeeper, stay in your line. Which is not, unheard of. And I actually think for a goalkeeper, as much as it's slightly odd given his height, for a goalkeeper, the reaction's as good as Kevin Dabrowski, I think you can do it. Like Dave McGurn, that was pretty much his MO. He wasn't coming flying out of his goals at all because he was so good when the ball was being, coming at him from short distance that he could manage it. It was fine. You always take the risk that the ball might drop in the 6-yard box because he's so good. And I think that's Kevin Dabrowski's one of his big strengths as well. The big kind of question mark, I think, with the back three is Ewan Murray. Wasn't on the bench on Saturday. Don't know to what extent he is missing or was just being rested or the tactical decision to leave him out or what, I don't know. But with Liam Dick's red card, he'd obviously be required for that. But like I said right at the beginning, I think Sam Stanton being around gives you that. It gives you a much better chance of playing that system kind of properly. Personally, I still think it means you're leaving out too many good players. But I think you could do it. I think it's something we will see at some point. But we're in a real, by any means, territory now. We just really need to win this. At Airdrie, I think I've got 1 point from the last 6 games. This needs to be starting to put nails in the coffin of, sorry Airdrie, you are going to have an abysmal season, but we can't. It's like Arbroath last season. Every time Arbroath looked like they were dead and buried, a game against us came around. We can't have that because we are too close to them. And this time around, that was like a charitable event last year where we were doing so well we could afford to give Arbroath 3 points every now and again. That's not the situation here. This is direct competition, and as you said, the league is starting to sort of fragment. There is going to be a bottom pack, and I think, albeit they were very impressive in terms of the result yesterday, you'd expect over the course of the season Hamilton will be down there. Looks like Dunfermline will be down there. Airdrie will be down there. On current evidence, everyone else in the division would have no option but to say, looks like Raith Rovers will be down there. Tuesday needs to be where you turn that around and go, no, we've been getting bad decisions. We've had bad luck. We've had silly mistakes that we've made. That's a phase. We're past that. We're actually good enough. We're going to finish 5th or whatever. Here's us showing it to you. Because, I think if we don't beat Airdrie, I think it's effectively a case of, we just are in that, until such times as we can win 6 games on the bounce, we're in that bottom pack, and deservedly so.
I think with Airdrie, I'm going to try and put a positive spin on it, in that if we can create the kind of chances we were creating in the first half yesterday against a defence that is, quite frankly, a lot poorer than Ryan McGowan and Danny Wilson, we will score goals. Jack Hamilton, again, I thought was outstanding yesterday. Just brilliant. Great with the ball at his feet, good in the air. And if we can get it, looks like he maybe got a bit hurt before he went off. Could have just been knackered, I'm not sure, because he put a power of work in as well. Throw in maybe Easton coming back in and having him and Stanton in there. I think we've got the tools to get the win we need tomorrow. But that doesn't, this season's not necessarily been like that so far, which is the kind of problem, and it's what's got us all just feeling that. And it's fucking Airdrie. The kind of factor in that being that Ian Murray's not here anymore. And I'm sure I read a stat somewhere that Ian Murray has never been on the winning side as a manager in a game between Airdrie and Raith Rovers, having managed both teams. So we've got rid of that one. So hopefully Neil Collins can kind of stop the rot in that sense. And I kind of agree as well that it's a weird kind of must win. It's not a must win in terms of points really at this stage of the season. It's far too early to be there. It's just about we need a bloody win. And if we could win a game scoring a goal from open play, that would just be really nice.
Right. Mason Hancock is out for anything between 4 to 6 weeks. So hopefully we won't see Mason Hancock, which, to be fair, genuinely, I think he was up there for one of the best players in the league last season.
Yeah.
And that, hopefully, is the kind of stuff that Airdrie are looking at, going, nothing's going right for us. We need these guys. We don't have... Because that is one thing with this Rovers side, is that back-to-back red cards, but actually we're kind of all right, which is a weird situation to be in. So obviously it's like Dylan Easton gets sent off last week, but Sam Stanton was there. Came in, was excellent. We never really did a man of the match because I was in the half, but could easily have been man of the match for the Livingston game. Liam Dick sent off yesterday, but you would have to assume Lewis Stevenson will just fit right back in again. And, I mean, that actually not even really downgrades with those two. You know, you've got good players coming into these places. I don't think that's where Airdrie are. They are at the point where Mason Hancock, possibly the best left back in the division, albeit Harry Milne's been playing very, very well as well. Kind of found his form again. Mason Hancock drops out, and they're playing a guy with a double-barreled surname who I don't know much about. Badley Morgan or something. It's like, but this is, as I say, this needs to be, and I don't think we've necessarily earned this attitude, but I think we need to adopt this attitude anyway. This needs to be like foot on the throat stuff. Like, actually, we've not been very good, you've been terrible, and we are going to go in with that attitude of, no, you're terrible, like, at them for the first minute, like we did to Livingston. And as Livingston, very, very good, and we were much better than them in that first half. Hopefully, it is a case of being able to do that. Hopefully, they've not had the kind of stuffing knocked out of them by that kind of end to the game. I suppose it's one of these which, do you want to get right back onto the park, or is this game coming around too soon and you're a bit kind of still feeling the effects of that? It will be interesting to see. Very quickly, Ian, is there anyone else you particularly would like to see coming into the side here, or I mean, anyone you want to drop for any reason?
If it was me picking, I'd have Lewis Gibson playing. I'd swap him for Jameson, just a straight swap, and keep the rest. But on the basis of what we've seen so far, that's unlikely to happen because, for reasons unknown, Lewis Gibson isn't getting a look in at the minute. So I would probably go for that change. Realistically, we'll probably see. I imagine Dylan Easton will probably come back in. Yeah, it's frustrating because we've got genuinely two good options in every position on the park. So we just need to see the fruits of that on Tuesday and have our players who are capable of giving very good performances give very good performances for 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's maybe a little bit of a case at the moment. We've got two kind of good options for a lot of places. Not a lot of names, not a lot of positions picking themselves. You know what I mean?
No.
Not a lot of guys.
So he's in great form.
He's definitely playing. Playing. It's a bit of a game, like putting your hand in the lucky bag for wide players, where legitimately 5 or 6 options for wide players, and he's like, Lewis Gibson cannot get on the park. But you could very reasonably make a case that he should be starting. It's just, I would personally, I would like to see just a little bit more variety in these wide places. Just think that, like, Lewis Jameson and Finlay Pollock have not been bad, have not been great. You know, they've been fine. I thought first half, Pollock was decent. Jameson was popping up in the box, which is quite good. Given how much was happening on the left-hand side, he was coming in, which is good to see. But I don't think either of them has been good enough that Connolly, Mullen, Gibson should be watching 90 minutes on end, you know, week after week. I think you've got all these guys. There should be more rotation there. Like, give 45 minutes each and just see what happens. Because they're all, to a lesser or greater extent, moments players anyway. So just stick them out, let them see what they can do, swap them out, rotate them, keep going. Les, anyone for you in particular that you, or anything you're hoping to see on Tuesday?
Right. So, I'm going to try and phrase this very carefully. And Fankity Dabo is the best player on the park by a country mile. So the Livingston game, he was light years ahead of any other human being within a 15-mile radius of Almond Vale on Saturday afternoon. It's incredible to see a right back getting forward. I would, however, like him once in a while to maybe just do something simple. So there was a couple of points, and again, please tell me if you think I'm being harsh, please push back. There's a couple of points in the second half where he was trying to take on, I think too many people are trying to beat his man 2 or 3 times, and trying to, as funny as it was, and it was fucking hilarious, seeing Robin Muirhead get nutmegged. It unfortunately ended up in a goal kick, rather than, he could have belted off and got a corner. So, and again, to turn that on its head, I would like to see maybe Gibson or Pollock on run the right for Jameson, somebody that Fanky can link up with, so that he's not having to do it all himself. Somebody who can offer something for him to link up with, because we've got this exceptional talent down the right, and I think there's something we can really tap into there. And as good as Lewis Jameson is for speed, I'm not convinced he's the best person for Dabo to link up with down the right. So whether it's Pollock, whether it's Gibson, somebody that we can link up with and just really, tap into what Dabo can bring us. That's what I want to see. And also a few more minutes for Cody David as well. Not in an emergency situation, but actually getting a few minutes in the park under normal circumstances. Those 2 things, please.
It's a good point, actually. We never really talked about Cody David much. Alan, give me anything you want to add in terms of your team on Tuesday, and then you can have the final word as well, just on your initial impressions on Cody David from yesterday.
Yeah, Les makes a good point there about giving Dabo someone to link up with. He does maybe try and do a bit too much at times, and if he's got someone better. At one point, actually, he went on this kind of wee mazy run to the edge of the box, was fouled about 3 times, and I'm screaming, "Just go down, go down!" But so that actually leads me to think, and he's not been on great form recently, but I wonder how Connolly would do with him, because Connolly's always been better when he's had a kind of marauding right back there who gets kind of up with him. He played like with he who shall not be named. When they were linking up together, you got the best out of Connolly. I wonder if maybe that's a way he goes. I mean, ultimately we've got 2 tricky games in 3 days, 3-4 days. We are going to have to use the squad a bit, and we've actually got one we can use. We're not sitting with 2 outfield players on the bench now. We're sitting with outfield players in the stand because we've got enough players. So use the squad, give someone a bit different. Airdrie will have had someone in the stand watching us, or they'll have been watching the last few games. They've not seen a thing of Gibson. Get them on there, let them have a run at them. It's just something direct, and he throws in really good crosses as well from open play and from dead balls. We need better balls into the box from dead balls, and I think ultimately Gibson and Mullen are probably the 2 best in the team for that. So I think we probably want one of them on there to just create more chances for us. In terms of David, I thought he looked pretty good. Clearly not up to match fitness yet, but there was enough kind of there to suggest that he's going to be a player at this level if he gets up to fitness and if he can be arsed. That is a big thing sometimes with players coming up to down south. Seeing it, is he seeing this as his opportunity to put himself in a shop window and get a move to a Scottish Premiership team or a League One team down in England? If he is, and he puts the work in, then I think he's got the tools to actually be an asset for us. for as long as he's here. Look, he's kind of looking at the clips we've seen of him and a couple of glimpses yesterday. He looked pretty quick, pretty strong, and he had that one shot as well. He hit pretty well, so it looks like he's got a bit of kind of power behind his shots as well. So I think, I'm optimistic that he might be half decent.
Good. I think we'll end on that optimistic note. I agree with you. I thought looked good in the few kind of chances he got, and the vast majority of that, obviously, we were down to 10 men. It was a tough shift. So, hopefully see a little bit more of him on Tuesday night. Get my run out once we're 4 goals up, see how he does. Right, thank you, gents, for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for listening as well. We will be back in some form or another, one night or another, this midweek after this Airdrie game. I suspect how we get on will dictate how soon after that game we get together. In the meantime, Blair has sent out the predictor stuff just not long before we started, so that should be in your inbox. Make sure you get back onto that. And you can find us in all the usual places as well. So, as I say, thank you for listening and goodbye.